Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the November 18th Policy Committee meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order, beginning with the approval of the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda.
I second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Now we need the approval of open session minutes.
I move that we approve the open session minutes.
Second.
Okay, and that is for Wednesday, October 28th. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We'll move to policies for second review, and we'll do these all together. Policy 3-6, staff student relations.
I'm sorry. Good morning. I've not received any recommendations for revision to this. It went to the board at the last meeting. We would ask that this go for approval at the December 1st meeting.
Okay, if there aren't any questions or comments, it looks like it was a very small edit. I'll accept. Let's move on to policy 5-10, school improvement plan.
This is the same situation. We received no recommendations for changes, and we would ask that it be approved on the December 1st meeting.
Okay, hearing no comments, we will proceed to student fees, proposed new policy.
We've received no feedback from this one. It went to the board at the last meeting. We'd ask for it to be approved at the December 1st meeting.
Okay. And the last one in this group would be online instruction, proposed new policy.
This one, the last meeting you all asked for administrative guidelines. Those are in the on board docs, and I emailed them to you all separately as well. Addressing attendance, and we followed kind of the same criteria we have followed for attendance already. Grading, Dr. Breedlove has already developed a committee to looking at grading protocols, and he would like to continue to work with that committee to propose grading practices. And so at this point, we were just recommending some language about there being a committee, and that that teachers will consider barriers to participation as to account for a failure to do the assigned work as opposed to just not completing it. So they look and see, is there a reason why the student isn't completing it before putting something in the grade book that would negatively impact the student.
Who's on the committee? And when will they have a recommendation?
They were meeting earlier, and it's got principals and teachers and academics team folks. I don't know more than that. I don't know if.
Well, I think we need to have something in place prior to the second semester, so they need to.
Okay.
Yeah. Michelle, I had a couple questions about the guidelines.
I do too, yes.
The first one says attendance will be considered based on student engagement. So if we have a student that's online and signed in, but they're not engaged, they would not be counted as in class?
No, they would be, because engagement includes signing in.
Okay. That answers that.
Yeah.
And then the very last paragraph, it says each school is to establish guidelines. Is that what we're doing, or is the district establishing the guidelines?
Right now, the schools are doing that.
Before we go further, the student has a daily check-in, a two-way communication. So is that the definition below of a two-way communication, web conference, phone conference, email exchange, et cetera? Or what do we mean by that?
And that's a two-way exchange is defined below, yeah.
So we need to move that up.
We can put that in the, yep, we can put it both places, absolutely.
And just to be clear, we have been given guidance from the state with regards to attendance, and this language, I believe, comes from that guidance specific to the current environment in the pandemic.
where the DPI said that it's attendance if they do their
Right.
work
That-
and not
that for those
necessarily
students who are
logging in.
full virtual, these are the parameters by which you can count a child present off, what they're calling present off-site.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So we have given that guidance to schools. So that's what they should be following. They shouldn't be necessarily developing anything outside of that that's more strict or
But they were,
more rigorous.
but they were.
And if they are, then we need to.
Well,
we need to
I think
follow up with
individual teachers did it. And I guess the other thing is the students complete his or her assignments for each remote instruction day, either online or offline. By when? So each school has different requirements. You have to get all your things in by Sunday at midnight or Saturday at noon or whatever it is. But what does that mean? Are we going to allow kids to do online stuff 30 days later and the teachers have to go back and correct attendance, or what's the plan? I think there has to be something in there about timely or
each day.
timely, but I think there's stuff that doesn't happen each day. So if they do 2 in one day, is that okay? But as long as, I think that each school, and I think each high school has rules about when stuff has to be in by. I don't know about
I
middle.
think we need some consistency across
Yes, sir. Yep.
at least the high schools.
I agree. I do not think that we should allow each school to have their own set of rules. That's precisely why we wanted this guideline, is because schools were all doing their own thing. And so I think we need to offer the guidelines, and every school needs to be consistent and do the same thing.
So for example, if you're a full remote kid and you do all your stuff, but you may not do it till Friday and Saturday, but it's not due until noon on Sunday. So from an attendance perspective, they met the attendance rules, correct? Okay. So we just need something in there that says that, because I think that that's been a problem. I mean, do we want our kids to engage every single day? Yes, we do. We do. And you have that in part of this, that you want the two-way engagement. But I do think that it's important that if they have family stuff or work commitments or other things, that we give them the ability to still get it in on time and account for attendance. You're shaking your head, yes.
Correct,
Okay, good.
that's absolutely correct.
Okay.
That's why it's an and or.
Okay, have these
Complete
been,
their assignments or they check in, because we know that there are kids who sit in class every day and don't do any work. So,
We also know that there's students who are caring for siblings. We also know that there are students that are at work,
correct,
helping their family during these economic difficult times. I know personally there are teenagers in my neighborhood who get up and go to work every day. And so and they're helping their family with bills and childcare and elderly, grandparents, siblings. So, I thought that was the spirit of this request, was to help those kids who maybe can't check in every day, but they're checking in on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday and trying to get their assignments in.
and that's why you have the completing the assignments or checking in. Because the state won't allow us not to have that criteria. That's the criteria that's set forth by the state. And so that's why we put it in there, and that's the language taken from the state. So that's why we have an either or, so
Okay.
that they do that. And we know that even where we have good access to technology, 9 times out of 10, I have great access at home, but there's a day that it may not work. And so we have to take that into account for students as well.
have we run this by, particularly the middle and high school principals?
Yes, they've seen this.
They have, okay. And have you gotten feedback from them?
What my understanding is they're agreeable to the what's in here. The one thing that they wanted the ability to have to establish the timelines, because different classes and different assignments take different
Amounts of
amounts
time.
of time. So they're concerned if we give them a deadline that certain assignments would not need that much time and certain assignments would need more than that time. And so that's why the principals wanted the authority to do that.
Okay.
I just want to go on record one more time since the committee apparently hasn't been formed or started their discussions. I am adamant that zeros cannot be used as placeholders. That just cannot happen. And I know it happens. It has happened to my Union County Public Schools students. I know that it's happening to current UCPS students. So when it comes to grading, I need to know that there's going to be a bullet in there that says that in Power School, that they're going to use the codes in Power School, not received, late, or whatever the different, not graded. Use one of the Power School choices and not a zero. That has to be in there.
So I think part of that discussion has to be part of the discussion of the grading committee, which they will take into account. I think on that note, the feedback that I've received, just to give the other side of it, is, and I'll tell you as a parent, this has happened to us when a zero has been entered. It's a wake up call for parents, and I think that our teachers will tell you that it's one of the only accountability measures that they have, and so, my concern is that if you enter the incomplete, I don't want that to be a false sense of security for a student that they don't have to do anything. And I worry about that from a teacher standpoint, that if you just have incompletes on there, I don't want a child or a parent to sense that all of a sudden I have all these incompletes. I never have to do the work. And then the grading period ends and my grade goes from a 90 to a 60, because on the incomplete, the overall grade is not impacted. So I also want to hear I understand your point, Ms. Merrill, and I acknowledge that. I also want to hear the other side of what our teachers would advocate for as well.
I hear what you're saying, Dr. Houlihan, and I think that does happen, that it is a good wake-up call, but I also know from experience that it's not used as a wake-up call. It's just because they haven't graded it yet. And that's what I want to get away from. Yeah, that Power School code is there. I mean, it's one of the options down at the bottom. Graded. They are.
So that's something that we need to. Do you understand that? So that's a different part of the conversation, because if it's a zero entered because the child has not met the deadline, not turned it in, it's just gone missing, like you've been no engagement, that's one end. And I think that's where teachers would say, I have to enter that because it's a missing assignment.
I'm okay with that, but I think we're I'm okay with what you're saying, but I'm telling you from experience, times 2 children, the child turned it in and they have a zero as a placeholder.
That's different to me.
But if it was due and the teacher doesn't have it, I'm okay with the zero, because I do agree with for my kids, it's a wake up call. Like, you've got to get this done so that your grade is not a zero. Respect for the 90 kids.
When honestly,
I agree with you.
I would say 99.99% of the time that my child has had a zero, that it hasn't been graded, that you got turned in.
and that's a practice that we should not be doing. I mean, if you as a teacher,
I misunderstood it.
99.99% of the time, my child's grade has gone from an A to a C or a B to a D. And I said, "Hey, what's going on here? Did you not do this work?" And they're like, "Oh no, I turned it in."
and I think and I agree with that. If you're a teacher,
And I thought it had happened to you too. Am I the only one that this has happened to?
That has happened to my children as well. But I thought we were talking about zeros where they had not turned in.
Oh, no.
that's what I thought too.
So I was misunderstood.
No, I'm talking about turned in, used as a placeholder.
Okay, I misunderstood.
Okay.
I think and I agree with you, if you're a teacher, I don't know in my opinion, what should be happening is the you don't put the grade in until you actually grade the work.
They can just put the assignment into Power School with nothing next to it, and it doesn't hurt.
That's what I'm saying.
I think there's a choice down at the bottom of Power School that says turned in, not graded.
I can add a sentence since it seems that everybody's on the same page with this, that for assignments that have been turned in but not yet graded, a 0 should not be used as a placeholder.
Yes.
That clarifies that concern. And I'll put that in the draft guidelines right now.
Oh, no.
So on these guidelines, just to be clear,
I mean, I thought my kids weren't the only ones, so I feel a little.
That happened at our house.
mine's happened for a different reason. So, so
I think we need to have an administrative guideline to use the Power School codes that exist, not zeros. And here's the deal. I understand that teachers are trying to give a wake-up call. But I don't know if right now is the proper time to be adding more stress to kids or families, because we have suicides, attempted suicides, we have unprecedented amounts of anxiety, depression. Children younger than ever are having to go for help and being put on medication. Families are stressed out. And we cannot be trying to teach a lesson by using zeros.
I agree. And I also will add to this that your secondary principals and mostly, because I've talked with them recently about this issue, they will tell you that they're really struggling getting the dedicated virtual kids in some cases to engage in the work and to complete the work. And I'm a little bit concerned, and I want our community to know last spring was different. We've been told that there is accountability this year. Grades are going to be due. You're getting report cards. And we need our virtual kids and our remote kids to actually do the work. And that's a real big struggle. So I understand your point. And what I was going to ask earlier was, do you want us to continue to work on this guideline, have the grading committee make their final recommendations and bring this back to the December policy committee for a final review before we then end the first semester, so we have it in place for the second semester?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. That if it was approved, then we can move that and share that with principals and get everyone up to speed.
And I would say effective today or last month, until this is ready. Zeros, zeros cannot be used as placeholders. And I would like to throw out one possible suggestion that, there's like a 5 or 10 day window from the due date. Until, consider that before a 0 is put in place. I think it varies from school to school.
What I would recommend, if it's okay, is because these administrative guidelines don't take the time that policies take, and some of this information, especially the not using zeros as a placeholder for turned in work, if you want that to get clearly in place ASAP, if we take this, administrative guidelines can easily be changed. We could approve this one at the December, or review this one at the December meeting, because you don't really approve it, and then we can re-review a revised one at the next meeting. Does that make sense? So that.
So you're going to do it this way.
And then
amend
you can revise
And
it.
then amend it. once
Correct.
the-
Okay.
Yep. And I know they're in place and have begun working. I just don't know. I've not been involved yet.
I mean, I just, I understand teachers have a job to do. But I think it begins with using the codes that are already in place in Power School. And if a kid's not engaging, are we sending attendance counselors or social workers and stuff out to the houses?
Absolutely. Principals, assistant principals, social workers, SROs. We have a practice where you have to have at least two people making the visit at the same time. And that has been going on since August.
Okay.
And
Wonderful.
and we're going to continue that work.
And, reaching out to parents either by phone, contact different by phone, email, knocking on the door or whatever. But I know for certain that there are teenagers in my area who are working. And then they try to get their homework and their assignments done at night or on the weekend. And I know, like my college age children, most of their, and so a lot of them are all online right now. Most of their assignments are due at 11:59 Sunday night. Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, it has gotten a lot better.
Okay, good.
I know that I was extremely concerned back in August and September. Dr. Breelove has just recently, I believe this morning, shared with me that we've got about between 50 and 70 kids that we still have we've gone to their homes, we've called them. I think it's closer to the 70 number if I remember. We've called them, we've made home visits, and no one's there. No one answers the phone. They're just completely checked out. Now, we don't know if they've moved. We don't know what the circumstances are, but we've got about 70 kids that have just dropped off. Correct. And so that's a really targeted effort now, and with those schools, to identify our kids who are at most at risk and who are missing from school, to find them and to recover them. Well, Mr. McCraw walked out, but I did have a conversation with him. He oversees our attendance counselors, and they are assigned to the cluster, not just the high school. And I have relayed to him that my expectation is that the elementary and middle schools also have access to those attendance counselors. They should be our first line of defense, along with social workers and others, well before we have teachers that get involved with that. But, as a former teacher, our teachers, these are their kids, and they want their kids to be successful, and they're going to do everything that they can to find them and to get them going. But it is a school-wide effort to try to find students and to get them engaged, for sure.
Okay, so I need a motion to send policy 3-6, 5-7, student fees and online instruction to the full board for second review at the December 1st meeting.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
That takes us to policies for first review. We'll do these all together as well. Policy 4-13, school assignment.
The first policy we have for your review today is 4-13, school assignment. And I have to look and see the changes here. This is a statutory change that was approved by the federal government as part of the, let me get the title of it properly, the Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps, and we are required to allow homeschool students to enroll in ROTC programs at the school that they would be assigned to attend. And so that is the change for that policy. Well, that would be the strict interpretation of the law. You know, that's what it says in the assignment area of a school that maintains an ROTC program. So if there's not one, I don't think they necessarily get to choose another one in the county.
Where did this come from? I mean, just out of curiosity, I mean, because it feels like a slippery slope for sports and band or, yeah, anything else. So where did this come from?
It's a federal law requirement.
So this is new. It
It
just,
just passed. Yep. It's effective, I think, like November.
so they're not
1st.
required to take one block, 2 block, 3 block.
They're not required to do it. It's probably the same thing that all kids have access to.
Well, all kids have access to K through 12 education too. Maybe there's a shortage or something. They're trying to drum up more interest. But it feels like a slippery slope. Okay.
It does.
Federal law. I guess we don't have a choice, huh? Okay. Todd, do you have any questions?
No, ma'am, I'm good.
Okay, we will go to student records 4-14.
The revision in this policy, this is part of our regular review, and we are required to have a process in place, a hearing process when parents are denied a request to amend their record. And so we have added that process. We have the process, we just didn't have it written down in policy, so we've added that. And the other thing we added was to address online instruction, that those images that are captured as part of regular class-to-class interaction is directory information, not things that necessarily, a release of confidential information, but just kind of the regular classroom interaction, so that we don't have an issue with other students in the class or parents seeing the classroom that's going on. And that's on page 8 of 11, number 14, to directory information. The hearing process, they can appeal to the board. It's not an, yeah. We haven't had to use the process before. We thought it was important. that
We'll
we
get
did.
one today.
Exactly. The only request we normally get is expungement of discipline, and that was already in there.
It's a communication platform that it's a free tool that some schools are using. There's about 1 million of these different things out there, but it's a platform that some teachers are using, mostly in elementary. You wouldn't find this in middle or high school. There's Class Dojo. There's another app called Seesaw. They're all apps that you can use to communicate.
What was that jar thing? There was something.
Remind used to be the big thing.
Okay.
I don't know if it's like, no, Tahira's saying,
It's different.
Yeah, it's not like Remind.
Each jar is the bullet, is the notification.
that's the digital flyers.
Yeah, the digital flyers. Instruction.
So it's a way for them.
Is it primarily elementary or?
It's primary elementary. I have a lot of even friends in other districts
Uh-huh.
who use that outside of the state, but it's more of an elementary tool
Okay.
where parents can communicate back and forth.
I know the one feature, teachers
Parent
to
to teacher.
students.
Teacher to parent, teacher to student. Yeah.
One school I know that if you're really interested that's using it and had a lot of success is Sardis Elementary School.
Mhm.
And the principal there will tell you that there are a lot of translation features for their ESL
Oh,
community that you
wow.
may not find on Zoom or Google Meet or Teams. And so that is one that their teachers have found that have been really beneficial for communication. And so that's just one
Yeah.
one qualitative example that I know of that why they're using it.
On their phones or on their Chromebooks or?
They can use it on their Chromebooks as well. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's an app, but it's also internet based, so you can
Mhm.
pull it up on your Chromebook.
Have we let our dual language and families and students know the benefits of using Class Dojo?
I mean, all of our principals are aware. I mean, our elementary principals. It's just one more example of they're
Mhm.
using Teams, Google Meet, Zoom, Dojo, Seesaw, all these kinds of things that have benefits. Now, specific to dual language, I don't know, because in your dual language program, that's a lot more verbal.
No. I mean, like for parent, like, okay.
You mean
It's not-
communication that can be translated for parents?
Communication that can be translated into another language. Because, for example, I know a lot of parents do not understand communications for their dual language student because they don't know the language their student is taking. And then for the families that are not English speaking families, this would be a great resource for them to communicate back and forth with teachers if it can be translated into a different language.
I don't know if we've shared it explicitly with dual language teachers, but we can look into that for sure. I don't think it cost us anything to use it, so it's just one more. There are a million of these different platforms out there, and this one works for a
Well, we
lot of
don't
the
need a
different schools.
million. So I am just wondering, do we let each school choose which one they're going to use, or have we said everyone needs to, like Seesaw? That's the first time I've ever heard of Seesaw. So we how many are floating out there, and are we just letting each school decide which program they're using?
What we've communicated to schools on this is that there are 3 primary platforms that we prefer that you use: Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, and Zoom. When you have a situation like Class Dojo, that is usually specific to one individual class or individual classes within a school. So I can't tell you, as an example, at Sardis, that every single teacher is using that. I know that some are. And I know that some are also using Teams and Zoom and others. So, it's from my, and I don't know it explicitly, but all I understand is that it is an instructional based platform that you can use for teaching and learning and communication. I don't know.
I can change that and remove Class Dojo and just put a district approved platform.
So we were pretty hardlined with our teachers back at the beginning of the school year, and we caused a lot of stress and anxiety, and then we kind of had to walk it back a little bit.
Right.
So we've got Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, and Zoom are the approved choices. And now we're saying that they can use Class Dojo, Seesaw, and other choices.
I think what this is a communication tool.
Okay.
What we were pretty hard line on was Canvas. And we
Mhm.
had folks that were, and that's a learning management platform, which is completely different.
Okay.
So when you think
Okay.
about two-way interaction, that could be a phone call, that could be an email, that could be Microsoft Team video conferencing, it could be Zoom video conferencing, it could be Dojo, it could be, these are all interactive platforms to engage kids in instruction. What we walked back was mostly in elementary, because we had elementary teachers that were used to using Google Classroom and others. We wanted them to have more flexibility on the learning management system. This one is specific to communication tools that we have found to have educational benefit from.
And we can just change it to a district approved platform, so there's no issue about it.
But can we limit it to 2, like Class Dojo or Seesaw, so that, someone just doesn't see the new flavor of the month and say, "Ooh, I'm going to start using this one."
Well, it'd have to
Okay.
be approved. And if we
Okay.
don't feel comfortable with it, we won't approve it.
Okay, great.
So I'll make that revision I'll remove Class Dojo
Approved.
to a district approved platform.
Awesome. Good deal. Okay. That brings us to policy 4-15, surveys of students.
And this has just got one minor change, and it says that any student survey has to be reviewed by the Director of Accountability and Research prior to distribution. That's a practice we have, but we've found that not everybody is doing that, and we want to make sure that surveys asking questions that we don't want asked of children aren't going out without somebody having reviewed it at the central office level. And that is currently being done by Dr. Tyson, and that's why that's been in his department before he came. And so that's.
Michelle, I guess the only question I would have on that, the word any, I mean, we have a lot of surveys in our school internal. I don't know if we want to put something around that. I mean, we have clubs that have surveys inside the clubs to survey students.
We have assignments that teachers give that include a survey. So do you,
School-wide or district-wide surveys have to be approved?
Or maybe surveys reaching more than a certain number of students. Or, I don't know. I just think any is awful.
Right.
I mean, we're going to be getting surveys. I think more surveys than we realize.
It's going to become a full-time job for Dr.
Yeah.
Tyson.
I don't know how.
Just a thought.
Yeah, that was the language that I was given by Dr. Tyson. I
So,
don't know how to respond.
can we ask them? Because I'm comfortable saying any district-wide student survey, because I'm not
Yeah, I think
aware
I
of,
like that.
I'm not aware,
Say school-wide.
I'm not aware of anyone reviewing individual surveys that teachers are giving for an assignment.
Not assignments. And I can clarify that any student survey, not a class-based assignment, but we've had school level, we've had grade level assignments from counselors. We had one for a club that we had to stop because it was asking students questions that we can't. Right, and that's a district approved one. Yeah. I think we do, because like I said, the one that we recently had to stop, which was an issue, and Tahira can confirm that, was a club survey. Yeah. Yeah.
So clubs would be,
Yeah, I would recommend it because we would have had a problem had we not caught it. I can play that. That's not for a class assignment. Any survey except one
Class
for a
assignments.
class assignment
and then
will be reviewed.
I could see that one going sideways too.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Right, and this came from the PPRA. I can add a sentence about that.
Or even if you look at the very next one, it is the policy of the board, whatever
Yeah.
you want
I
to
can
put
just
there.
put there's a policy of the board to ensure that. Leave it that way.
Okay, that brings us to policy 5-21, internet safety.
This was part of our regular review, and these were recommendations that were made by Mr. Parker. Just to clarify, most of them are just clarifying. There's a couple adding child pornography and non-instructional value to the.
Or recommendations? No.
Good.
Okay, so I would accept. 5-21 to be sent for first review to the full board on December 1st.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, action items taken to the full board. All the ones already mentioned for second review and first review. And our next meeting date will be December 16th here at the PDC at 9 a.m.
We have a closed session.
And I need a motion to go into closed session.
Second.
I don't,
It's advice of counsel.
okay, thank you.